life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear a music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing when through the tempest around me soars? I know the truth, it liveth. What through the darkness around me glows, songs in the night it giveth. When through the darkness close around, and while to the rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
This is a new day. This is a day full of sound, light, and expectation. This day has been waiting for you. This day has been waiting especially for you, to embrace you and guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now and let us worship together. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Youngstown. While current conditions do not allow us to gather in our building at 1105 Elm Street, we can open our cyberspace doors more widely to welcome a broad national and international gathering of congregants. We do not require members to follow a creed or a set of beliefs about God or the nature of reality. Instead, we are bound together by agreement to follow the spirit of love in our daily lives, to serve our community, to dwell together in peace, and to seek the truth in love. This church community has discerned the spirit of love to call us toward care for the vulnerable and marginalized, as great prophets have done in the past. We have waved a rainbow flag to signify this place as a sanctuary for any persons who identify as LGBTQIA. We have raised a Black Lives Matter flag to remind us and our community that racism and systems that support racism must transform if they are to become the beloved community. If you come to us with a broken heart, welcome. If you come to us with a searching and restless heart, welcome. If you're a person in search of healing and healing for yourself and the world, welcome. If you feel drawn to this path, if it describes the path that you are already on, we welcome you and would like to get you to know you better. We have several announcements listed in the order of service and the weekly update. And I would like to especially attract your attention to those that concern this week. Coming up later in the week, we have a presentation on the unknown Saint Pauli Murray at 7 p.m. That's Tuesday the 20th. And today, right after the service, you may come to the church for a drive-through that's a full spectrum spaghetti dinner fundraiser. Curbside pickup at the church from 1 to 5 p.m. At 2 p.m., Martin Berger and Bob Siebold will preside over a foreign policy discussion this afternoon on the regular Zoom channel. Please join the discussion concerning observations on German policy before the Second World War. And coming in the distant future, or not too distant future, I would like to remind you about the first cast book study discussion group has finished, and some of the participants will offer next study group sessions. Anyone interested in participating in the next study group can complete the survey featured in the weekly update email or on the UUYO website to sign up and to help us determine how the next study group will be organized. Coming in the future, Karen Lapidus and I are partnering up to form small ministry discussion groups that will engage both new and continuing members. And throughout the summer, I would like to have small ministries of our own to talk about the spiritual dimension of serving on committees, such as the committee that Louisa Berger heads of Women's Alliance, which came up in our meeting with the AAUW last week, or Martin Berger's Sacred Buildings and the Ground of Our Being work parties. So those are the main announcements for the day.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Lowry, and I will be offering you a chalice lighting to get us started thinking about education and religion. So indulge me for a moment in an analogy. I was and still am an English major at some very fundamental level. So education is to church as experience is to faith. So let's analyze, unpack, or dissect, whichever term your education or experience prefers. So over time, for me, education and church have come to represent structured systems in very literal and figurative ways. There are books, but there are also boundaries and barriers here. They are institutions built by humans, curated carefully, and canonical. On the other hand, these spaces do offer connections, reflections, and inspirations, but neither one of them has really felt like a place where I belonged. Sliding to the other end of the spectrum, experience and faith represent open systems. There are no walls or even words at times. These spaces are wild and free and limitless. They are evolving, sometimes ephemeral, and sometimes everlasting. This, in the gray area, in the in-between, in the everywhere and nowhere, is where I feel I belong. So let me pause for a second. I fully recognize that I'm sharing service today with two incredible educators about the intersectional and overlapping roles of education and religion in our lives. So, this is not to say that education as a formalized system holds no value for me. I thoroughly enjoyed my undergraduate classroom time earning a BA in English and Linguistics, and my graduate work earning an MA in American Studies with certificates in teaching English as a second language and professional and technical writing. If nothing else, I learned 50-cent words like ephemeral and canonical. But what really got me to jump out of my stiff, cold metal seat and say hallelujah was a class that showed me what education looks like outside of education. It taught me how to transform my curiosity and passion into action, how to understand that education is a beginning, a founding, a starting, and experience is the living, the doing, the ongoing. The class I mentioned, and I may have talked about it before, was called Humanities in the Community, taught by a friend of UUYO, Dr. Sherry Lincoln. It was a class for me that was more than a class. It was the first time I encountered the exhilarating blend of education and experience, of theory and practice, of learning by doing, and of learning to love the gray area of infinite possibility. It was in this 15-week course that I learned how to plan an event, write a grant proposal, connect with different people for a common cause, and apply what I have been spending my whole life learning about and start chipping away at changing the world, at least my little corner of it. It was about the same time that I became a member and more involved in the community here at UUYO. Until that time, in roughly 2010, 2011, I was a happy nun. No church, no religion too. But UUYO, as a church and as a community, is different. UUYO makes space intentionally for people like me to explore, to feel unsure, to feel reassured that I am never truly alone, and to know that justice matters just as much as Jesus. I realized that I didn't so much find a church as I found my faith, a place with people who shared my values and that made space for gray area, for curiosity, flexibility, and uncertainty. This is where I belonged. Shortly after becoming a member of the UUYO community, I accepted my first post-college real job working for United States Senator Sherrod Brown. And boy, was I glad I had that class where I learned to love the gray area and that I found a safe space to rest and recharge my soul. As we all know, politics can be toxic. And the country is run by 20-something staffers, which is actually comforting when you look at who their bosses are much of the time. But it's also kind of terrifying, especially when you are one of those 20-somethings as a staffer and living and working in a 60 to 70-something world. I was so green, I was glowing. However, the lessons I learned about building on educational foundations, trusting experience, and grounding myself in my values kept me from breaking down and cracking up. Even now, after I've entered into my second professional position as the director of the Healthy Community Partnership at the Community Foundation of the Mahoning Valley, again, another instance of a position that is really an elevator speech more so than a title, I find myself drawing strength and solace from these same lessons. Education and church can offer structure, support, and guidance, but experience and faith are what continue to propel me forward, keep me going and growing, and create space for belonging and recharging. So today, let us light the chalice in honor of education, experience, and lifelong learning.
Please join me now in reciting our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Each month, we give to an organization that supports transformation in our community, which is the heart of our mission. And our church's historic commitment to the well-being of our community, we give 100% of our offering to those in need. UUYO's Give Away the Plate for April is Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition. The Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition is a social justice organization created to address the impact of racism on African American disparities, including policy inequities, historical trauma, food insecurity, research, behavioral health, and addiction, health promotion by working to empower, educate, and advocate for health equity in underserved communities. Here is a video showing you the great work that they do.
Murdered when I was 6 years old, and I promised that I would use my life to help change the lives of others.
Decades later, Ivanka Hall is just as passionate about that promise.
This has been a labor of love.
Using her organization, Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition,
Hi there, thank you for coming out to deliver with us today.
to get healthy food
Breakfast items, lunch, snacks.
Here you go.
into the hands
Oh, wonderful.
of dozens of families in Cleveland.
There's so many that live in food deserts that don't have transportation, that are unable to get healthy foods.
Once a month, volunteers like LaVon Williams
My soul feeds off of being able to help others that are in need.
drive down Ivanka's driveway
Hello.
to pick up a month's worth of food that's distributed to 50 families.
It costs us about $10,000 a month.
What's amazing about this outreach is that it truly is a community effort. With no major funding, Ivanka relies on donations, whether it's cash or a carton of eggs that people can put in this fridge she has out on her back porch.
Since the start of the
We will now receive the offering that supports the life of Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley, and our wider world.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We pondered this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Is all I ever had. Redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear of atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long will they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. You got to fulfill the book. So won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Was all I ever had. Redemption songs, redemption songs, these songs of freedom.
Ever since I attended the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association last summer, I have been receiving first light meditations, which are sent out at 4 a.m., which I don't read till much later, by the UU minister Galen Gurnett in New York. Often lately, they have been very serendipitously appropriate to our services. And I included the reading by Mary Oliver as our reading today. But yesterday, I received a meditation that I thought was appropriate to our scheduled meditation, which pulls us together to breathe as one in worship. It's from the writer George Santayana. Our knowledge is a torch of smoky pine that lights the pathway but one step ahead, across a void of mystery and dread. And here comes my cat. Bid then the tender light of faith to shine, by which alone the mortal heart is led unto the thinking of the thought divine, which is embodied in a cat. Let us breathe together.
A reading, the poem Becoming by Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, but little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
like a spinning top or a dreidel. The spinning don't stop when you leave the cradle. You just slow down. Round and around this world you go, spinning through the lives of the people you know. We all slow down. How you gonna keep on turning from day to day? How you gonna keep on turning your life away? No days you can borrow, no time you can buy, no trust in tomorrow, it's a lie. I feel like a spinning top or a dreidel. The spinning don't stop when you leave the cradle. You just slow down. Round and around this world you go, spinning through the lives of the people you know. We all slow down. How you gonna keep on turning from day to day? How you gonna keep on turning your life away? And I feel like I'm a dipping and a diving. My sky shoes are spiked with lead heels. I'm lost in this star car I'm a driving, but my air soul keeps pushing big wheels. My world is a constant confusion. My mind is prepared to attack. My past a persuasive illusion. I'm watching the future, it's black. What do you know? You know just what you perceive. What can you show? Nothing of what you believe. And as you grow, each thread of life that you weave will spin around your deeds and dictate your needs. As you sell your soul and you sow your seeds, and you wound yourself and your loved ones bleed, and your habits grow and your conscience seeds on all that you thought you would be. I never thought this could happen to me. I feel like a spinning top or a dreidel. The spinning don't stop when you leave the cradle. You just slow down. Round and around this world you go, spinning through the lives of the people you know. We all slow down. How you gonna keep on turning from day to day? How you gonna keep on turning your life away? I feel like a spinning top or a dreidel. The spinning don't stop when you leave the cradle. You just slow down. You just slow down. You just slow down.
As you can see from the picture that accompanied the order of service, a picture from the Vindicator in 2008, where I carried the ceremonial mace in the YSU graduation procession, I am a successful product of the American educational system. The mace bears the insignia Animus Liberatus, the spirit having been made free. My modern spell check, like most of the YSU community, apparently doesn't know Latin, for it tried to autocorrect this phrase to animus liberates, which is not exactly the same message, but it might be appropriate for anyone carrying a mace. So it would seem that religion and education seek to serve similar ends. And the question in the service that I have is struggled with for preparing my remarks. As UUs, we are committed to a lifelong journey of putting our faith into action. How does the educational process, as a component of our commitment to lifelong learning, serve this faith? One of my favorite Russian authors, Chekhov, famously wrote to his editor, who was demanding a literature that provided answers to the pressing questions of the day, was that literature, or storytelling more properly, was not meant to provide answers, but to pose the questions properly. So our work, or worship, is to come together to pose questions properly. This, of course, was the preferred teaching method of arguably the first great teachers of historic record, Socrates. Socrates also famously said that the unexamined life is not worth living. So I invite you to introspection, as well as reflection on today's program. Education is my love. It was my profession until 2016, and definitely a value I hold as sacred. But is education a religion? This is a question that comes naturally to me, but may resonate differently for each of us. Access to education is a struggle for many people nationally and internationally, for politics and economic reasons, as well as struggle for those among us with access to education, an education that never seems to deliver on its promises. Our theme of the month is becoming ourselves. Along with white privilege, educational privilege has accompanied me throughout my life. Affiliation with educational institutions actually preceded my birth, for I must have been begot in the neighborhood of Columbia University, where my father, a graduate student, was studying thanks to the GI Bill after World War II, which benefited, as we know, many more whites than it did blacks. And my birth must have figured prominently in his decision to take a teaching and coaching job at the New Hampshire prep school, where his father was the headmaster, rather than accepting the graduate teaching assistantship at Columbia that he had been offered. My father never completed his dissertation, and that was ultimately the motivation for me to finish mine. So that's how I ended up in a tenure track position at Youngstown State University in 1986, with a concomitant joining of the UUYO church. So Youngstown and YSU were, until my retirement, the major locus of my educational mission. And UUYO, as is probably evident from the blurb, is the change of my focus in retirement. My current housemate, 19-year-old Travis Bland, my home health aide and in loco educational advisee, may have white privilege, but precious little of it. He strikes me as a true believer in the power of education, and I fear the weight of the life that can extinguish the power of that spark. Born in what he himself calls redneck Kanye, he came to live across the street from me at the age of 13 and navigated the local schools with their rampant bullying and drug culture through high school graduation last year, becoming a National Tech Honor Society inductee. But he found his first term at YSU, with its switch to a nearly exclusive online learning due to the pandemic, and found he was missing the hand-on component that he had at Chofin. He decided to switch this to a more hands-on program as an EMT, but faced mounting financial costs as well as other decisions that go beyond, well beyond anything that I had faced as a 19-year-old. So Travis Bland is offering me new questions, and there are more Travises in Youngstown, Ohio alone than I ever dreamt of in my philosophy. Therefore, retired from a Russian Department of One in foreign languages, studying otherness comes naturally to me. While I majored in French as an undergraduate, my most influential undergraduate course was Concepts of Religion, and where my professor, Theodore Gaster, liked to preface his course by stating that the word educate, educo, means to lead forth, to lead out. In other words, continuing the thought of the liberation of the spirit. My colleague in classics at YSO point out that the relationship to the true etymological root educare is to bring up, nurture, and introduce a more formal aspect to this process. So in my mind, the concept of leading out the liberation of the spirit, animus liberatus, is foremost. But in creating a system of education, we often stifle the very spirit we purport to make free. Being in Youngstown, but not of it, clearly presents and has presented its own challenges. Describing my position as a job was what the dean of YSU School of it's changed its name so many times. It was the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. I thought of my position more as bringing an opportunity to my students to think globally. That's hard enough, but at the local level, when it comes right down to it, what I was doing, as Mary Oliver states, was as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. To a New Englander, moving first to Pittsburgh for graduate school and on to Ohio for a teaching job is pioneering, and I thought of myself as on a pilgrimage. Clearly, I had a lot to learn. As my educational mission seeks to redefine itself, I turn to the mission of our church as it was formulated during the ministry of Susan Frederick Gray. Our mission is to build a diverse and transformative spiritual community, help people live lives of wholeness, and promote justice, peace, and religious freedom. So we come back to our basic questions. Why? How? However, as missionaries often discover, the natives can do very well without you. Thank you. In every American university and college I knew of, departments routinely offered courses in Russian Soviet culture to boost their, taught in English, to boost their enrollments. I never got more than 12 students in any such class here at YSU, And I eventually began to study the local environment, the university ethos, and its students. So I continue to study now that I have retired, as I embark on the role as you see me in as a candidate for a commissioned lay ministry in our church. In graduate school, I learned about the history of Russian philosophy, and that Russian philosophy was anthropocentric. In other words, man-centered or human-centered. Parenthetically, I might add, a student of philosophy, of Russian philosophy, was Ayn Rand, whose philosophy I do not subscribe to. But in the history of Russian literature, I came to study the work of a 12th century religious thinker, the minister, the Metropolitan Hilarion of Kiev, whose sermon on law and grace was one of the monuments of early Russian literature. So in Hilarion's philosophy, the Old Testament had brought forth the law, and with the New Testament came grace, and grace was love. Genealogically speaking, I'm a purebred wasp. I was drawn onward. I had educational privilege to do so, to study the other. But living with, joining with, is a lifelong struggle. In the UU Church, we have no saints to emulate, but we try to bring the better part of ourselves together in the church service. We find in each other a saintly inspiration and strive to bring forth the saintly seed within each of us. We look to historical figures, contemporaries, and to the sacred teachings of other religious traditions. So, as I turn to Metropolitan Hilarion on law and grace, I find that as we strive to serve the law, which is service in our church, we fall short. And it is through grace, the amazing grace, that we hope to guide our earthly vestals forward. Please join me in prayer from another religious teacher, Teilhard de Chardin, read by Lindsay Senkovich.
Above all, trust in the slow work of God. We are quite naturally impatient in everything to reach the end without delay. We should like to skip the intermediate stages. We are impatient of being on the way to something unknown, something new. And yet, it is the law of all progress that it is made by passing through some stages of instability, and that it may take a very long time. And so I think it is with you. Your ideas mature gradually. Let them grow. Let them shape themselves without undue haste. Don't try to force them on as though you could be today what time, that is to say, grace and circumstances acting on your own goodwill, will make of you tomorrow. Only God could say what this new spirit gradually forming within you will be. Give our Lord the benefit of believing that his hand is leading you, and accept the anxiety of feeling yourself in suspense and incomplete. All this we pray. Amen.
They say everything can be replaced. They say every distance is not near. Yet I remember every face of every man who put me here. And I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. They say every man needs protection. They say that everyone must fall. Yet I swear I see my own reflection somewhere so high above this wall. And I see my light come shining, ooh, from the west down to the east. Any day now, oh, any day now, I shall be released. Now yonder stands a man in this lonely crowd, who swears he's not to blame. And all day long I hear him shout out loud, just crying out how he was framed. And I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, oh, any day now, I shall be released. Any day now, oh, any day now, we shall be released.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we meet again.
As you depart, please remember the one great fact: you are loved and never truly alone.
Let it go, my love, my truest. Let it sail on silver wings. Life's a twinkling, that's for certain, but it's such a fine thing. There's a gathering of spirits, there's a festival of friends, and we'll take up where we left off when we all meet again. I can't explain it, I couldn't if I tried. How the only things we carry are the things we hold inside. Like a day out in the open, like a love we won't forget, like the laughter that we started and it hasn't died down yet. Let it go, my love, my truest. Let it sail on silver wings. Life's a twinkling, that's for certain, but it's such a fine thing. There's a gathering of spirits, there's a festival of friends, and we'll take up where we left off when we all meet again. Oh yeah, now didn't we? Oh, don't we make it shine? Aren't we standing in the center of something so rare and fine? Some glow like embers, like a light through colored glass. Some give it all in one great flame, throwing kisses as they pass. Let it go, my love, my truest. Let it sail on silver wings. Life's a twinkling, that's for certain, oh, but it's such a fine thing. There's a gathering of spirits, there's a festival of friends, and we'll take up where we left off when we all meet again. Just east of Eden, there's heaven in our midst, and we're never really all that far from those we love and miss. So just wade out in the water, there's a glory all around, and the wisest say there's 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. Let it go, my love, my truest. Let it sail on silver wings. Life's a twinkling, that's for certain, but it's such a fine thing. There's a gathering of spirits, there's a festival of friends, and we'll take up where we left off when we all meet again. There's a gathering of spirits, there's a festival of friends, and we'll take up where we left off when we all meet again.